morning again. Welcome. Thank you for coming. On behalf of the chief, I'll submit his apologies for not being here. He's got some family obligations he had to attend to, so he sent me. So if you don't know me, my name is Todd Minardi. I'm the deputy chief here in Westboro. I'm not new to the department. I've actually been on the department for about 24 years. I did grow up in Westboro, over on Robert Road. So I got promoted to deputy chief back in October. It's a new position for the department for the first time.
Very good choice.
Thank you very much. It's the first deputy chief's position we've had in Westboro, and that was one of the positions that were added at the fall town meeting. The other position was the traffic officer that was added, and that actually just got rolled out a couple of weeks ago. So now we have a full-time officer just dedicated to doing traffic in town. Goes to any of the places where there are traffic complaints, speeding cars, anything of that nature. As you all know, it's a huge issue in town. We get a lot of traffic complaints. So that was a really great addition to our department. So really the only other thing the chief wanted me to relay to you is what's going on at town meeting. As you all know, town meeting is coming up on the 16th. And we're really asking for your support in what we're trying to do. So I don't know if any of you have looked at the staffing study for the police department. It's posted on the town's website. It's pretty comprehensive. It focuses only on patrol. So what the staffing study basically did was look at what we need to properly patrol the town. That's strictly just uniform, marked cruisers, and basically said the first year we need to add 5 positions. So we worked with the Board of Selectmen, we worked with the town manager, and we made some increases in our budget. So we're really looking for support at town meeting on our budget. There are a couple other issues besides the budget. We have a couple of capital plans on town meeting that we'd really like your support with. One is our cruiser article. Every year we replace cruisers, and we're just doing that again this year, but we are increasing our fleet slightly. We're looking to add additional people, so we need to add additional cruisers. One of our other capital items is replacing the police radios in our cruisers. The ones we have right now are about 16 years old. They're starting to fail. We actually had a couple fail in the last few months, so it's really important that we get those replaced. A little bit back to the staffing study. The staffing study said initially that we need to hire 5 additional personnel right away. We worked with the town to phase in a plan gradually over time. We're looking to hire 2 July 1st, 2 January 1st in the first year. So that's where some of the increase in the budget came from. The other increases in our budget is from the collective bargaining agreements that were just signed and agreed to with both unions. And the chief wanted to make sure I let you know that this is not increasing your taxes this first year. There was a big savings in the town on the insurance budget, the money that the town budgets to cover the town-wide insurance. It came in a lot lower than expected, so the town's going to use some of that money that was saved to fund the increase in the department personnel. So we think it's important that you understand that. The chief and the department clearly understand the impact that adding personnel has to the community, especially people on a fixed income and the seniors. We appreciate that, but we're honestly trying to do the best we can to run the department. Anybody have any questions on any of that?
Where do you get the most pushback when you try to do what you're doing?
People are very concerned about taxes, and again, like I said, we understand that. We know that the tax bills went up dramatically just recently, and people are concerned, but we are very, very happy with the support we've gotten from the town, from the community, from the town manager's office, from the selectmen. They really understand that we do need to add more people. We have been understaffed for a long time. And if anybody hasn't read the study, like I said, it's on the town's website. I encourage you to look at it. It's very comprehensive. And it really does, talks about the patrol level. It's not about the administration, it's not about the detectives. It's strictly about how we respond to calls and the level of service that we provide to you. And, you know, we think it should be better. Yes.
Going forward, can you project what's coming down the pipe next year?
So what the plan recommends, and what we've worked out with the town manager and the selectmen and the finance committee, is phasing it in over time. Again, initially it said we should hire 5 right away. We're looking to do 4 the first year by phasing it in. The second 2 positions would only be for half the year. The following year, we'd be looking to hire 2, July 1st, and then 1 in January. And then the following year, it'd be 1 July 1st and 1 in January.
Thank you.
The plan does go out until, I think it's 2025. So we really would be looking at hiring 2 a year until that point. But we're gonna, as the plan moves forward, every year we're gonna reassess where we're at and see if, you know, we need to hire additional people or not. Yes.
I'm wondering, that money saved through insurance, is anyone else asking for the same money? You know, in other words, are you competing with anybody?
Good question.
that
Yeah,
has a need?
that's a great question. I would have to defer that to the town manager.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yes.
In some indirect way, I think you may be saving the seniors money. I keep reading, you've probably had a few scams when you catch somebody on the way to the bank to wire money
Mhm.
someplace.
Yep.
The traffic accidents, one of my neighbors, they had 2 fantastic old cars. There was some accident down by Otis Street and Route 9. Now the lady is not driving because the new car doesn't give her the same line of sight. Maybe she would have stopped driving anyway. But a lot of the things you're doing indirectly keep the seniors safer. And maybe we can help you cost out. We can think of the disasters you've saved us.
Yeah, well, that would
add
be
up the
great.
costs.
We'd love to show that to the town. I mean, we do realize that traffic is a huge issue in town, and we can't clear up congestion, but, you know, the speeding cars on the streets and the erratic driving and stuff, you know, having the traffic officer is really, we believe that's really gonna help that. I mean, we honestly think we could have at least 2 full-time traffic officers. Anybody else?
Okay, one more question.
Sure.
What's changing in the last 10 years as to what you guys are facing? I mean, traffic is one thing, but are you seeing some of the city kind of problems coming out?
Yeah, so like when we talk to people about adding officers to the department, you know, there seemed to be a general sense like, well, there's no crime in Westboro, why do we need more police officers, right? And the reality of it is, we haven't really added any positions to the department in about 30 years, honestly, other than the 2 we just did that were really, they were not patrol positions. So what I tell people is we don't want to scare people by, you know, putting out all sorts of numbers and statistics and information generally. And some of the information that we have obviously is very sensitive and we can't release it. But generally what I tell people is every type of crime you can think of, it happens here. You know, at some level, not at the level of a big city, but every type of crime happens here. Obviously, you know, with the increase in technology, there's a huge increase in, you know, like you were talking about, scams and stuff like that, the electronic crimes and stuff. They're very, very difficult to investigate, very time consuming on the detectives. But it's certainly something, you know, that we see a lot of that, you know, wasn't really seeing that when I got on the job, you know. Yes.
Sort of 3 questions if I could. There are national crime statistics which some large city departments do not respond, they don't input.
Yeah.
Do we have any, is it in the town report that lists ours? Also, are you cooperating much with Worcester, seeing what's going on there and as it comes over here? And is there much game hanging in town? Sorry.
I'll answer the last one first, because that was the easiest. We don't see a lot of gang activity in Westboro. Very, very sporadic, any tagging or anything like that going on. There's a great deal of information sharing amongst law enforcement agencies, locally, countywide, statewide. There's a lot of different groups out there that collect data and disseminate it to us, and we're very involved with that. What was the first question? Our crime reports. So if you go to town meeting and look in the book for the police department's report, there is a table in there that lists a general description of crimes and what our numbers are. So every month we report our crime statistics to the state, and the state then reports them to the FBI. So our crime numbers here in Massachusetts do get published nationally.
But is there a state document that lists the Massachusetts crimes? This, later on.
Yeah, the best way to do it is go to the FBI's crime reporting site, and you can look up states, counties, communities. One thing I'm going to tell you about that is it came to our attention recently that the way we were listing some of our crimes in our offense reports, they weren't being coded properly. So when we run the crime statistics, they weren't being properly reported, basically. So we corrected that for 2018. But next year, if you go and look at our crime statistics, you're going to see this massive increase. And it's not really accurate. It's just that we're doing a much better job reporting it. Yeah.
What's the highest crime that is committed in town?
The highest, you mean?
Numbers,
like
by numbers.
What would you think, Mike?
I think you'd probably have to break it down into different categories. So you have your serious crimes such as rapes, sexual assaults, things that obviously don't go reported right away because they're still under investigation. Things like B&Es are things that break-in and enterings are things that you'll probably end up hearing about. But by and large, when we are investigating crimes, especially, I worked a stint in detectives, right? So there's a lot of things that you guys don't hear about right away until it becomes resolved or we put it out on social media. So some of that is going to be a little bit skewed until those crimes are solved, right? But we do get a range of crimes here. I'm not saying that we have, murders every week. Obviously, that's clear. You guys know that. But there's things that we try to be as transparent as possible with documenting these things and letting the public know. But there's also things that we can't put out there to compromise investigations, okay? So, Westboro, and I will say this, I've lived here. I graduated Westboro High School in 1995, and I came on as a dispatcher at 19 years old. So I've seen through 3 different chiefs how Westboro has progressed economically, right? And when you have a community that progresses at that level, you bring in more businesses, right? You bring in more roads get expanded, so you have more people traveling in. So we're getting transient crime as well. So it's not just the bedroom community crime that we're dealing with. We're dealing with crime that leaks over from Worcester, that leaks over from Framingham, from all over. So that's what we're dealing with. And traditionally, we've always been understaffed. And we can't proactively combat those crimes because, number one, we don't have enough people, and number two, we have resources, put on other things that are immediate, things that we can solve and move out the way. But whatever, things happen here. Just remember that we do a good job of taking care of it, but we can always do a better job, just like anybody else. We do the best with what we have. So I don't know if that answered your question, but
We have we have more property crime than violent crime, but we do have violent crime as well. Yes.
When the tractor trailer went over yesterday with all the liquor in it, did you guys have to go out and take care of that, and watch it, to keep it from being stolen?
We're not giving it to you.
No, I know.
Don't even ask that question.
Yes, going, oh my God, there must have been.
So we-
I
They maybe are now, but,
But do you have to go
so
garbage?
even though that was up on 495 and the fire department responded to that, and they were up there for quite a while, but it actually took a lot of our resources as well, because we had to close the ramps on Route 9 to 495 southbound.
You guys were in trouble. Everybody in town was screaming. Oh my
Yeah, no, I know, but it's something like that, right? So if you think of that situation, it doesn't get reported as a crime or anything in Westboro, right? But it tied up 2 officers for a significant amount of time when we only have 4 officers on patrol.
I was afraid it was more than that.
So one more incident happens, and now there's nobody available. And I don't think any of you want to call the police
Sometimes, yes.
and have a Grafton police officer show up at your house because there's nobody available from Westboro.
Would that happen? Would
Yes.
you call them?
Yeah, we call mutual aid from a surrounding town. We get called to go to Southborough sometimes, we get called to go to Northborough sometimes. Even if we only have 3 or 4 officers on the road, you know, we're gonna go and do that. We're gonna go and assist people. And a lot of people don't know, like right now, the situation we're in with our temporary building, we don't have a cell block, we don't have a booking room, we don't have anything. So when we have to make an arrest, we have to take 2 officers, transport the prisoner to Southborough and book him in Southborough and hold him in their jail. And then we have to drive over there to feed him. We have to drive over there and take him to the hospital if they need to go to the hospital. So it's a very, very difficult situation.
So going along with that, I'm a supervisor on the midnight to 8 shift, and that happens frequently, right? If we have somebody that's operating under the influence and we have to place that person under arrest, we have 3 officers working, I'm the supervisor, I have to send the 2 gentlemen, the 2 officers that I'm working with, to Southborough to do the booking process. And so if you think about that, the typical booking process and report writing over time takes about 4 hours. We work 8-hour shifts. So there's a potential that I could be, because I'm a supervisor, I have to stay in town. I'm in Westboro, the town of Westboro for 2-3 hours by myself with the hopes that other communities have someone available to assist me if another situation comes in, such as, you know, a domestic violence situation, which requires 2 officers. And then what happens after that, right? I then have to call my guys back from another town to bring them. And it's a trickle effect. And to what Deputy was saying, traditionally we haven't been as efficient as we could be because we've been understaffed. So
if we're planning a big crime, we should sort of distract you.
Yeah, see,
exactly.
we try to be very careful when we tell people this, but we think it's important, we really think it's important for the citizens to know that we've been trying to do the very best we can, and I think we've been doing a pretty good job, but we need to be prepared for a worst case scenario, and we're really not doing a very good job at that. Yes.
And when will you be moving into your new building?
Hopefully this summer.
Not May anymore?
No. So we've actually been out 2 years this month. We've been working in an office park with a dentist office upstairs, and it's challenging.
I'm sure the dentist feels safe though.
I have 2 questions.
Okay.
One, does Southborough charge you for booking work?
They don't. And I can't thank them enough for what they've gone through for 2 years, having to assist us. They're in the process of building a new building because the one that they're in is even worse than what we had before. So if we bring a prisoner over there, they basically can't arrest anyone because there's no more space in there. So
Well, maybe that's what you want to try to do here. Send him home, let him slip the sucker off.
you know what? I'll be honest with you. Our arrests are down probably 75% because we do everything we can to summon someone into court rather than arrest them.
Yeah.
But there are people that, I'm sorry, they need to go to jail.
Yeah.
I have a second question.
Yeah.
How is Lucas, the police dog, doing?
He's doing great. He's doing great, yeah. He's a great dog. I mean, he's so calm. until it's time to work. It's unbelievable.
He's been in a couple.
I hear a lot on the news about an opioid crisis in this country. I mean, what is the situation here with that in Westboro? I mean, we see an increase in the usage of that and then the number of calls you get from that?
We have overdoses on a fairly consistent basis. We had an overdose death not too long ago. He wasn't from town, but he was coming to the Spectrum House. Decided he was gonna, give it one last shot, unfortunately. And that's another very taxing area for us is the Spectrum House. They constantly have walkaways up there that we have to deal with. And that's another situation that, we never know what we're gonna run into when we go up there. Those people are coming from all over the state, probably even out of state. So, we have to be very careful when they're getting released into our community. So we always go up there and check on them and make sure that, they're getting to the train station or they're getting to where they need to go so they're not wandering around in our community.
Also, with the passage here in Massachusetts of the recreational marijuana, do you see an increase in traffic accidents or being impaired because of people smoking marijuana? And if so, how do you...
There's certainly a
how do you test
potential.
that?
That's a very, very difficult situation for us to police. The legislature went out and made this situation, but they didn't really think it through. There's no way to test somebody at the roadside for marijuana intoxication. There's no level, there's no legal standing for that. There are, sobriety tests that we can use to try to determine whether or not a person, was driving unsafe. We can take a lot of things into consideration, what their driving behavior was, were they in an accident. But it's going to be a very difficult situation for law enforcement to deal with. It really is. And, quickly back to the opioid issue. We're about to roll out our Advocates Jail Diversion Program. I don't know if any of you have heard us talking about it. The Advocates are a private group based out of Framingham. They do psychiatric care, the mental health, substance abuse. So they have a program where you get a clinician that actually comes with us and rides in our cruiser. So Westboro wrote a grant through the Department of Mental Health to hire a clinician with the Advocates for their jail diversion program, and it's a regional group. It's going to be Westboro, Southboro, and Northboro. We're going to share the clinician 40 hours a week. They're going to come literally ride with us in a cruiser to any type of mental health call, domestic violence call, substance abuse call. We're going to have a clinician ready to assist that person rather than, a police officer trying to deal with it. All our officers have gone through mental health training through the Advocates, so we're trying to prepare our officers to better handle those situations. We have to wear many, many hats, and every year it seems like we're required to do more. We carry Narcan now, and our officers have administered Narcan many times. It's something that we obviously never had to do before. Now it's another tool, it's more training, it's more responsibility, and it's more time. And it gets taxing, but I think the jail diversion program, having a clinician available to us is going to be a great asset to the community.
What's making me crazy is grandparents and parents are saying, I don't have to worry about my grandchildren and my children so much anymore because you guys don't have Narcan. And surely we want everybody to have Narcan,
Yeah.
but why are they laying back now and saying, I don't have to worry so much anymore?
Yeah, there is some people out there that have that kind of sentiment. I don't really know how to respond to that, to be honest with you. I mean, it's one thing, obviously we want to save a life, but it's not, something we want people to think, well, it's okay if I do drugs because someone will give me Narcan. It's a difficult situation. Yes.
Is that 100%
Effective.
effective? Thank you.
No, I mean, it depends on the level of the overdose.
Yeah.
Sometimes people are administered 2 or 3 doses of it before they come back. And sometimes if they don't go to the hospital, the Narcan can wear off. And if they still have enough drugs in their system, they'll overdose again.
Oh my God.
On the initial?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what you're also seeing too with heroin overdoses, a lot of times fentanyl, you know, the fentanyl pain patches, sometimes that's found to be laced in some of these things. So, and it's, I forget how many more times potent it is with heroin, but a lot of times that's what these people are taking in. So the whole opioid, you know, epidemic is now kind of evolving because they're realizing, hey, well, you know, we have all these resources available. Police officers are coming to, you know, help us, cure us, whatever it is, administer Narcan. They come back and then they're looking for the next thing. So that's another thing that, you know, law enforcement has always been kind of behind on those trends. We're trying to get ahead of it, but it's tough. You know, it's a tough thing. I was just in service last week and they were talking about that, the movement being from, you know, the painkillers, the narcotics, and then into the opioids and now fentanyl. So that's the new thing. So you're going to be hearing a lot about that pretty soon. It's not quite out there, but it's you'll hear about it, and that's going to be another thing that we're going to have to deal with and figure out.
And the fentanyl is poisonous to you guys too when you go.
Super
Yes,
dangerous.
yeah.
Yeah. Very small
Yeah.
amount exposure can kill you.
Yeah, it's very potent, and we have to be careful because, you know, we go into these houses, we don't know what's there. So we touch a fentanyl patch, we could be out. You know,
So is that worse than meth?
we try to do it. We try.
Could you compare that to that?
So fentanyl, I think, is a narcotic, right? But meth is more of a stimulant, so it's almost like cocaine. So the effects of it are quite opposite, right? And also with meth, the long-term effects, actually, the effects are shorter than they are with fentanyl. So,
We don't see a lot of methamphetamines in this part of the country,
right.
luckily, but extremely dangerous as well.
I read too that you have to be careful with your dogs when you walk them in the park, because if people have been smoking marijuana, the dogs' noses are so sensitive, they can pick up the smell and get very sick and end up at the vet. So my question is, does Lucas carry his own little, you know?
Does he have Narcan? No, seriously.
No, I mean, his handler carries it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I mean, it's a whole, you know, you bring up a good issue, it's a whole nother, the whole legalizing marijuana issue. It's not just the people smoking the marijuana, it's all the other products that they're making. The marijuana oils, the edibles, you know. You think of, if you can think of it, they're putting marijuana in it. And then that's very concerning to law enforcement.
It used to be that the pet shop on Route 9 had the Vesta dog calendars. You can order them, I presume, online or by sending a check. And that's for the poor police dogs. The vests have to be replaced every 5 years, isn't it? And some communities might find it an expense. My office mate used to bake brownies, and she'd then send the money to Vesta Dog.
That's excellent. We just got, I believe, Officer Paulsino got a vest for Lucas donated by, I don't remember what organization it was.
It could have been Vesta Dog.
Yeah, it might have been, yeah. So Lucas has his vest, thankfully. Yeah.
Why is it taking so long to get that done?
Well, it's a big building. It's, well, I go to the building committee meetings every month, and I go in and see the progress. They're done with the construction, they're working on the finishes, you know, the paint and all that stuff. They're working in the big auditorium on the second floor to redo all that. There's been a tremendous amount of work that they had to do in there to you know, repair some of the things they uncovered when they were doing the demolition. It was really some pretty amazing stuff that they had to go
There were some
through.
unexpected discoveries once they started pulling them apart, so.
Yeah. But we're getting there. We're confident that they should have substantial completion, as they call it, in June. So we're looking forward to getting back downtown, for sure. And I'm sure the citizens are too, because to have to come see us up on Computer Drive, I mean, it's a hassle. It's a hassle. That side of town is happy that we're there. Because we have a faster response and there's cruises up there all the time. But I'm sure the citizens will be happy when we're back downtown.
So my name's Sergeant Mike Daniels. I've been a Westboro police officer for about 17 years. I grew up in Westboro. I graduated Westboro High School in 1995. So I've been here for quite some time. I started out as a dispatcher when I was 19 years old. And under the old chief, I think it was Chief Parker. Some of you may or may not know him. He sponsored me to go to the academy. Once I got out of the academy, I knew Westboro was where I wanted to be, right? There are a lot of other places that I had looked at, but my heart was here. So, you know, having grown up here, there's nothing better than giving back to this community, and I'll never leave until well, obviously when I retire, I'll be gone. But, so that's me. So currently I'm assigned to the patrol division. I work 4 to 12 and midnight to 8, so that's kind of a weird shift to work. So I work 2 4 to 12s, or 2 midnight to 8s and 2 4 to 12s, so my sleep schedule's a little off. But I enjoy it. I enjoy the guys that I work with. I'm also a member of the Diversity and Inclusion Committee. I sit on that. It's awesome to be a part of it. You know, I get to hear a lot of things that concern people in town, and that's one of the reasons why I'm a part of it. I also supervise the community policing unit, and that's what I'm here to talk to you guys about. I'm also a grant writer. I do a few other things, but I didn't want to just fill this up with things that I do, because this is about you guys. So, with that being said, you know, when Chief Laurie asked me to come in and talk about the community policing unit, obviously being in law enforcement for as long as I have, I know what community policing is, right? Because it's a philosophy that we were taught in the academy, right? And it's a philosophy that's kind of gone by the wayside as we've seen an increase in population and changes in the economy, right? I'm sure you guys understand that. So what is community policing? Does anyone here, just give me an idea. What do you think community policing is? Just take a wild guess. You don't have to be correct, but just be in the ballpark. And I don't want to have to call on someone, because I know a few faces in here, and I'm going to go right for them. But,
Go ahead.
So, Jay Woodman, let's go, brother.
I knew you were going to do that.
That's why you're like,
Yeah, I've been hiding.
hiding in the back there.
It has to, you're involved with the actual people, walking the beat, you know, talking to people downtown, talking to people around the area, businesses.
Yeah. Is everybody on board with that? Does that sound, that sounds about right? So, so what does it mean to be a community police officer? What does that look like to you as citizens from the Westboro Police Department? What is it that you want to see from us as far as community policing? What does that look like to you? Anybody?
Respect for us, and that you'll nod, you'll smile, you'll acknowledge us as a person when you see us.
Okay, that's one of the things, right? What else?
Well, I think that if you become a local friend,
Mhm.
then you're also getting backup from us.
Right.
Because, you know, you guys get in trouble, you know, we're here sort of as a, not necessarily that we're going to assist you with an arrest or something, but, you know, that you've got the community behind you.
Right. Very valid point, and that's one of the key points that I look at when thinking about community policing, right? A large part of community policing is building community trust, okay? And traditionally, law enforcement has not been very good at that, okay? Over the years, we've moved to being in our cars all the time, right? And that's not any fault of our own. It's not any fault of the community. It's just the way things have changed over the years, right? People want quick response. If you have an issue, you want a police officer there as quickly as possible. But then what happens is that when, you know, an agency's crippled by either the economy, right? My job, you know, as a patrol officer is to go and deliver a service, right? Make sure that that call's cleared out, peace is restored, and then I'm gone, right? So, sounds funny, but what should happen is we should be getting to know our community, right? So we talked about economy versus policing trends. So I'm sure, someone mentioned it to here, I think it was Bob mentioned it very early on. Community policing was basically what we were founded on, right? We used to do it all the time. Who here knows Ron Brady? Anybody knows that name, Ron Brady? Yeah, of course you do.
In the 70s maybe?
Yeah. So Ronnie Brady, he passed away. Rush Johnson, guys like that. People like Lieutenant McLeod, the Deputy Chief Minardi. These are all people that you know because they've grown up in the community, right? So if you have a problem, right, you feel comfortable speaking with those officers about those problems. Now, if I were to say, do you know Officer Joe Sabati or Officer Bo Buchanan? You're gonna say no, because you just don't. That's not a fault of our own. You just haven't been exposed to those police officers, right? So community policing definition, and this is from the Department of Justice, very complicated, right? Community policing is a philosophy that promotes organizational strategies which support the systematic use of partnerships and problem-solving techniques to proactively address the immediate conditions that give rise to public safety issues such as crime and social disorder and fear of crime, right? That's the complicated definition. So I'm going to try and break it down to you. Community policing, in short, is community engagement, right? Someone else in an earlier conversation said, hey, I remember when guys used to park their cars in the center of town and they would walk around, talk to business owners, they would talk to people in the community. And I'm here to tell you that that is the best way to police. Does anybody know why that's the best way to police? Okay, so let's say you own a store, right? Or actually, no. You live in a residential community. You know everybody that lives in your neighborhood. You see cars coming in and out of there. You know what your neighbors own. You're aware of your surroundings. You're aware of your community. You're aware of your environment. Now, let's say you have a vehicle, suspicious vehicle parked at the end of the street. Now, typically, what I know goes through a lot of people's mind is I don't want to trouble the police with calling them and addressing the situation. Some people will, but by and large, people feel that we have better things to do, and in some cases, we do. I'm not gonna lie, we may be busy with something else, but if you know me, Mike Daniels, like Jay Woodman, I've known you for a long time, you've known me since I was 14, if you had an issue, your relationship with me, because you know who I am, I've grown up in the community, you'd be more likely to talk to me about that, right? And then I, in turn, would take that information that you gave me, and I would try to enforce it or come up with a solution to that problem. I would investigate the suspicious vehicle and do things like that, right? That's what we're supposed to be doing, right? This is before we got cars, and we had to become more mobile because the environment and policing trends demanded it. So we moved away from that. And that's basically what it is, us engaging with the community. Every time we interact with you and we teach you things and we tell you things that we're looking for, we're seeing things through your eyes, right? When you think of a public organization versus a private organization, right, the most successful companies are the ones that have the best marketing departments. They go out there, they pitch you something and they say, how can we best make this work for you, right? Now, public sector organization, which that's what we are, you are our clientele, right? Our service delivery to you is dependent on the feedback that you give to us, right? So if we don't have that rapport or that community engagement, we fail as police officers because then all we're doing is we're being reactive, right? So, and that's not what we want. You pay a lot of taxes here. That's not what we want. We want to be able to serve the community as efficiently as possible, okay? So this is one of the ways that we do this, right? It also increases trust in the police, right? If you come to me and you know me as Mike Daniels, who dealt with me in other, you know, in a scenario like this, you may be, just by me being here, you may be more comfortable talking to me about a personal problem or something, you know, that may be going on with your family because you trust me, right? And I'll be able to guide you in the right direction, hopefully, or to get you the resources that you need. That hasn't been happening, right? Because we've never been good, and I'm not saying Westboro Police Department, but law enforcement has not been good in engaging the community, right? And this is where you start seeing things on social media, where you have the Black Lives Matter movement, you have a lot of anti-police organizations that are out there, and it's through no fault of their own. It's we're not doing a good enough job gaining the trust of the people that we're serving, right? And this is what we want to do as Westboro Police Department. Old school versus new school. You know, some of the names that I mentioned earlier, Ronnie Brady, who's obviously passed away, Rush Johnson, those guys, when they were here back in the day, they would park their cars in the center of town, and they'd walk around, you know, and they'd talk to the people, right? And in normal conversation, you know, it could be, oh, how's your kids, how's the wife, you know, where'd you go on vacation? And the next thing you know, something else comes up. Oh, hey, I had this incident over here. And then now all of a sudden, that police officer knows, and then they pass that information on to other people. So engaging in the community is extremely, extremely important. You know, the cops in the old days, they knew who they served, right? Officer Subati, who is right back there, he's one of our newer officers. Some of you may be familiar with him, but I talked to him 2 weeks ago, and he's like, you know something? He goes, I don't know a lot of people, you know, and when he goes on a call with somebody like myself, I can say, oh, hey, Gary, how you doing? And it's, you know, I have an advantage, right? But we need to get that advantage, you know, put into some of the newer officers. And you'll see Joe a lot, because Joe's going to work as the senior liaison. And we're working on a couple things, and hopefully you guys will hear very shortly about how that's going to progress. Walking the footbeats, right? You guys know where the town square is, the Rotary, right? We all call it the square, right? Even some of our sergeants, our lieutenants, whatever, they used to give orders when I first came on, you gotta walk the square. And as a young officer, that really stinks, because you're like, I want to be in the car catching bad guys. But while that's an important task, engaging with the community and gathering intel and finding out what's going on is a much better gathering of intelligence, and it helps us do things more efficiently, right? Because bad guys are always going to be out there. But the way you catch the bad guys that we want to catch, the big guys, is through your eyes, okay? Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Okay. They were involved in community events. Often you'd see these police officers at church, right? There's some people that you may see at church or wherever it is. Whatever place of worship you went, you were friendly with these police officers. Guarantee you probably do not know 75% of the police officers on Westboro Police Department. Am I right? Okay. Policing was focused because of the information that we were receiving from local businesses and people in town. Here we have the new school. Officer Sabati is a new school officer. He's fairly young. How long have you been on, Joe?
I've been here for almost a year and a half now.
Yeah. So Joe hasn't been here very long. But traditionally, when we bring in a new police officer, we field train them, and you know, they're responding to calls. Especially now, we don't have the manpower to have the luxury to go out and do a lot of the things that we'd like to do. But we're changing that. Chief Lori's philosophy is that we need to, and we all agree with it, we need to be out in the community. We need to be engaging people, doing things that we're doing right now, like this talk. It's huge. So, you know, obviously no fault of our own. You know, as the population increases, it becomes harder for us to police the way that we want. So, the chief's philosophy is to start a community policing unit, right? So that community policing unit consists of these officers. Lieutenant McLeod, who's out back, he oversees it. I'm his sergeant in that unit. So Whenever a request comes in for, coffee with a cop or an event like this, it goes through him, and I assign whoever goes to that event. These are important things, right? Some of you may know Detective SRO Charles Chip Applewhite. He's always in the schools. Good resource to have because he tells us what's going on. We get a lot of good feedback from the teachers, from the students. He's very friendly with them. And that's what we want. We want people to come to us and talk to us, about problems that are in school. So we have an in at the school. We know what's going on at the school. And Officer Sabati, Daryl Jones, and Vodon Buchanan, those are officers that we'll dispatch to other things, like coffee with a cop. I don't know if any of you have attended any of those, have you? Okay, we're looking at, have you? No? We're looking at having one on March 18th, and that gives us an opportunity just to talk to you guys, low level, to see, how you're feeling about Westboro, how you're feeling about certain issues and certain crimes, or if there's things that we can talk to you about. And if anything else, just have a conversation so that you become comfortable with me, so that if, something happens, you want to call me, you can call me, or you can call Officer Sabati, Daryl Jones, or any of the individuals here. So what do? Coffee with a cop, I mentioned that. So we alternate locations. The first one, LT, was at
Christina's Cafe.
Christina's Cafe. Awesome event. I spoke with a black gentleman it was actually pretty awesome because, his view on police officers, he was interested to see how I felt about being in a profession that's predominantly a white profession. I'm not gonna mince words. And if I got any feedback from, African American people in the community. And it's tough, we talked about that, but we connected at that level, right? So there was a mutual understanding. And we left there having a great time. We exchanged numbers. I called him a few times. And I got information from him on how we can better engage the community. Officer Jones, who you probably haven't seen, but he does a lot of parking walks. He's assigned to the 8 to 4 shift. A lot of times you'll see him downtown. He'll park his cruiser and he'll go into the town hall, he'll go into the library. You'll see him a lot. And we do that because we want people to approach him, right? So if you see a police officer at any of those locations, do not be afraid to approach. That's what he's there for. He wants to talk to people. He doesn't look very friendly, but I'm telling you. He's not here. But no, he doesn't look friendly, but he's a friendly guy, and he'll talk a mile a minute. You think the chief is bad? This guy, he's even worse. So, another thing that we've done actually recently, last Sunday, with Lieutenant McLeod, we went to the Boy Scouts pancake breakfast. Awesome opportunity. There was selectmen there. We got a chance to talk to some of the selectmen, talk about what their concerns were, and we supported the Boy Scouts, right? So that was beneficial. When we get the new police station, one of the things we're looking at is probably giving a tour, because we want you guys to know, you helped us get to this level. So we want to be able to bring in everybody to show, hey, look, this is what your support has given us, right? So those are one of the things we're going to do. Senior Center Liaison, Officer Sabati. Officer Sabati and I, along with Alma, are working on a couple things where, we could check on some of the other elderly people in the community, just to make sure they're okay, just to check in, because we need that, right? We can't forget about, those people. Some people just like to stay home, but we want to make sure that they're okay and that they're being taken care of. Because what we're finding is there's a lot of people that don't have family nearby, right? So when we get these officers that allow us to do more things on shift, you're going to be seeing Officer Sabati at some of these liaison events. We do safety talks and audits. We did 2 of them very recently, and we just give safety talks. We want people to know that we're out there, we support them, and we want them to know that when we come in to do any of these audits or to talk to them about security, that we're on their side. And we also need to be on the same page if, God forbid, an event happens, right? Citizens Police Academy, that's something that's in the pipeline, and it will be to be determined. And we will definitely get the word out. It's going to be one of my major goals because I think that's important. I think people need to understand what we do, despite the fact of all the, despite the negative attention that we've been receiving in the media. Community readings, we go out, we read to the kids at the Hastings School, Armstrong, wherever we can get in. We want kids to know that they can trust us, and if they need us, we're there. Final thing, I know you guys got to get up and leave. A lot of these events will be supported by grants. We're writing a lot of grants. We're trying to get grant proposals out to other places to help fund these because we believe it's important. Pedestrian bike safety and our traffic grant. We were told one of the chiefs, one of the biggest complaints that the chief gets has a lot to do with traffic, right? We're a growing town. Everybody knows. I've been here 28 years, and this place is not the same it was 28 years ago. We've got a lot of stuff going on. So with that being said, we wrote a traffic grant. We were awarded, I believe, $15,000 to help offset the cost to the community when we have to put a traffic officer out and additional personnel. So we were able to get that. Our pedestrian bike safety, that's another thing. The crosswalks at the Rotary are crazy. So we're going to deploy very soon through the community policing unit, our traffic officer, and the grant that we received. We're going to be attacking that and making sure people, feel safe at least crossing the street. We have a few other things, a rape aggression defense program that I wrote a proposal for, and hopefully we can get that up and running before the summer. But on a final note, here's my name, my email address, and my phone number, right? This goes to my office phone. If you need anything, or if you need to talk about anything, or you have any ideas about things that we should be doing, or things that, we feel are feasible to do, let me know. And I'll work with Lieutenant McLeod and our unit to make sure that we can do these things for you. You guys are very important to us. You showed us a lot of support, and that's pretty much it. I hope I didn't bore you guys to death. So any questions? Does anybody have any questions real quick? Go ahead, ma'am.
You sound very compassionate, friendly. Can you change?
Thank you.
Yeah, but can you change your personality to be strict, even if you know that person, if you went to school with that person?
Yeah.
Traffic tickets for your classmates.
You have to balance.
Well, so and so that's something that I thought about before I got hired. I came on as a dispatcher when I was 19, and when I came back to apply for the patrol officer position, that was one of the questions that I had to think about in my mind. Could I enforce the law, right, with people that I know and people that I care about, right? People will ask me, I've had people call other officers, stopping relatives of mine, saying, hey, I just stopped your cousin, what do you want? Hit them hard, right? Because people know who I am, I'm not going to let anybody use, my name to get away. It just doesn't work. So it's a matter of integrity. And I can tell you, every police officer that you have working in this community, they have the utmost integrity, right? We are not going to treat anybody any different because of skin color or whatever. We treat people professionally. And we make sure that when we deliver a service, it's the best service that we can deliver with what we have. All right, so I want you guys to understand that. It's a very important item, and I hope you feel safe in this community. I've lived here for a long time, and as you said, I am very passionate about being here, and I enjoy it. And I wouldn't change my career. I wouldn't go to any other police department. This is my home, and this is where I'm going to be until I retire. So, anything else? Wow.